You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now, the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Castle After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Castle After Show.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another after show here at AFTERBUZZ TV for Castle. This is season 6, episode 7, Like Father, Like Daughter. I am your host, Paige Sullivan, and I am joined by my lovely co-host.
Hello everyone, I'm Tiona Hobson.
And I am Kate Aquillano.
And this was a little bit of a different kind of episode, a little twist, but I loved it.
I
really liked it. We were in the room like, who is it? Is it that guy?
There was a couple screams. It was exciting.
It was a really good one.
I shed some tears. So
did you?
We both teared a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I really loved this because I just felt like it was a new take on what they already do. So Castle's really good about doing that pretty often, switching it up so we don't get bored. But I liked Alexis being in there. I was surprised she was even involved in the case to begin with. I didn't realize she was taking a law class.
Yeah.
I turned to her. I was like, wait, is she a law intern now?
Because I thought she was.
How is she involved with this?
I thought she was a science buff or an eco buff from last season. Because remember, she was going to that.
And then she went to Costa Rica, and that's our shrimp pie, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know when she got into this, like, law kick.
I just said they just throw anything out at her. They're like, we're just going to make her do this now. This is her new interest.
It's Alexis.
She's a trust fund baby, kind of.
She's got the money for the extra classes.
She can dabble in everything. See what she likes.
It also might just be a requirement. Who knows? They're like, oh, you have to take one law class because it was an intro to law. So maybe.
But yet she's super involved in a courtroom and emotionally invested.
And what were they called? Like the innocent seekers?
The innocence review or something. Oh. Which you hear about before because there's been those stories. Like the big one was the guy, the Hurricane, the boxer, who was in jail for 30 years or something like that before his innocence was proven. They need people fighting for them. Yeah. But in a case like this, I don't even know why they took it on because it did seem very cut and dry. Yeah.
Right. All the evidence led to this guy, Frank Henson. So to take it on in the first place was they didn't explain that.
Right. Yeah. And so I was watching at the beginning and I was like, wait, what's happening? Like the murder's happening and I don't know what's happening.
Right.
But
it's kind of dark.
Yeah, it was really dark. But apparently this happened years ago in 98.
Exactly.
Which I didn't get from that opening scene. I kind of thought it was happening right now.
But now when I think about it, his phone when he was calling the alarm company had like the cord
I didn't even notice.
Oh yeah, it was an old school like 1990s phone where it had the antenna that you would pull out too.
Details.
See, but it wasn't attached to the wall, like in the kitchen. You had to like try and get as far away from your family as possible.
I always picture like the Saved by the Bell phones. That's like
the dinosaur gray phones.
But so I guess that should have given us a hint. But I wasn't thinking that we were going back in time for this case. Not that we literally did, but apparently it's all about Frank Henson, and he killed Kimberly. Supposedly, he is being tried for. He was tried for murder, convicted.
Yes,
his appeal was basically shot down, and now he's up for the death penalty.
He is going to be executed in 3 days' time.
That's insane.
So a lot,
and it makes you think about how many people out there. From past cases in real life.
Exactly.
Where, like, if DNA evidence had played a factor back then,
how many
people have we killed that are actually innocent because of the death penalty?
I bet a lot, unfortunately, which is sad. Yes. But this whole episode was kind of trippy because you knew from the beginning he didn't do it. Because why else would this episode exist?
He's innocent.
It's like, are they going to get him off in time?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to
I was still on the edge of my seat. I'm like, who actually killed this girl?
Yeah, I wanted to know.
They did a really good job.
I'm glad because Frank said when they initially talked to him, we'll get it. Alexis asked Castle to help, which is the first time she's doing that since their fight.
Their big fight.
And he thought she wasn't going to come around for a while. And I love this whole episode. I wrote down Beckett being a mom, because she kept saying like, oh, well, she'll come around or give her time or, help her or let me know how I can help. And she really wanted to be there for Alexis.
Yeah.
And she says to Lainey, she's never come to me like at all in this whole case.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for her.
I starred that little note because I'm like, that's kind of what we predicted, like more Alexis and Beckett bonding. And I think maybe this is like the beginning of that because, well, we'll get to it, but maybe she goes to her for more help in the future.
Because I really thought prior to last week and this week that they had a decent relationship. They've seen a lot of each other. They've been in each other's lives, life or death situations with her father. I thought she would like and care about Beckett, but she's a daughter and this is her new stepmom.
It's a different role that, Alexis has always seen her as maybe like her dad's friend or partner, but not partner and like she's going to be part of the family. Because one of the lines Beckett says in the beginning too is Alexis is just like family, or is practically family now.
Yeah.
And I was like, practically, I was like, you should just say she is family now because the wedding's happening, and to be a part of it, just go ahead and own that step instead of questioning it.
But she also does say Castle and Alexis had a whole life before she came around.
Yeah.
They have this whole history. Obviously, it's his daughter, but it's not where she's a stepmom in the sense that Alexis is a little girl who she can grow with. The growth's done. Alexis is an adult.
Right.
Living with her boyfriend,
Living with her boyfriend, making interesting choices for herself.
They need to establish their own new relationship in this new kind of dynamic. It's not going to be the same as her and Castle because, it's not.
It's not a love. But,
yeah, it should be interesting.
Well, we'll see how that goes. But, he was talking to Beckett about how she won't come around, and then here she comes walking in the door asking for his help. And so it's because she's on this case for class, and she really believes this guy's innocent, and her dad is the last person she can go to because she's already gone to Ryan and Esposito.
Right.
And Castle knows, obviously, and he's been keeping track of what she's doing. But I do like that she finally
went to her dad. Asked for help.
But I don't like how she's like, I'm still mad at you. And this isn't a road trip.
This is a road trip. This is business. Why haven't you asked me any questions about this case?
I do get it because she's very serious and this there's a man's life in jeopardy. But Castle at first doesn't even really realize that this guy's innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even after they get some of the logistics and the facts, he still doesn't.
He still doesn't think. He's like, everything points to this guy. He's like, I'm sorry, Alexis. Like, this is like very cut and dry. And she is the one that is like, no, and she keeps pushing further.
Yeah.
But luckily, the big breaks came from Castle. He saw them. He found them. He has a trained eye for it now.
Yeah.
This is what he does.
Yeah.
It's not his job. He doesn't get paid for it.
I love when their first meeting in the jail. He's like, so are you a lawyer? And Castle's like, no. So are you a cop? No. He's like, what are you? He's like, I'm a mystery writer. That's perfect.
I know. Too bad he wasn't wearing his bulletproof vest instead of right around there. I wonder if he got a new one after he got shot in that episode. I'm sure they got him a new one. But that is true. It's funny because, he has so much knowledge and experience with solving cases, but he has no credentials. It's like,
to go with it.
Are you a cop? Like, did you go to law school?
No, none of that.
No, I just kind of dove into it. Started, one day.
He is a master of details.
He is.
He is, and that's the difference. Is he's always had that eye and that creativity and the question. He always questions everything. It's never what it looks like for him because he's a novelist. That's what he does. He tricks you.
He has to piece together all the points in his book, and he's like, there's so many things that can happen, and he can
connect the dots.
Exactly.
It's not just about facts; it's about the big picture with Castle. But with this, just a brief synopsis of what happened. Frank Henson apparently was working in his car, set off an alarm, called to shut it off, and then heard screams and ran to his neighbor's Kimberly's house, and she was dead.
Yes.
He ran in through the back door because he couldn't get in the front, and then he got scared that he was going to get in trouble, wiped his handprints. This is the information we're getting off the bat. Wiped his handprints, ran out the front door, was arrested immediately. Those cops, they are quick.
They were quick.
They were very quick. He was in there for like 3 seconds before he was arrested.
Yes.
But, it was his DNA everywhere. They didn't really...
He tried to wipe it down. So
he just
looked guilty.
He had priors. I mean,
they never questioned it.
Right. They said they had his prints. He was there. He was caught red-handed. So they really didn't have to look for anyone else. They just knew it was him.
But from that first scene, I questioned his brother because when his brother ran out the door, I was like, ooh.
I was like, his brother looks like he's saying, what are you doing over there? You weren't supposed to get caught. So I did have the brother pegged for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was a murderer, but I thought he knew something. And also when we saw him in the courtroom, he just looked Like, he knew more than he was letting on.
Right.
That he was happy to be on the other side of the courtroom.
I didn't know how I felt about him. I was like, I had it pegged on the fiance at first. I was so wrong.
On Maggie?
Yeah.
I thought that for a brief second, but I really didn't think so.
I was like, she feels guilty, so she's sticking by his side. I was so wrong.
But I even thought to myself, that is a long time. 10 years to stay with the guy who's behind
15.
bars. 15?
Oh, 15.
Was it 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, 98 to 2013.
I thought they said it was a 10-year-old case, though. Maybe I was
Get your
just
math together, Castle.
Well, I could be wrong, guys. It's late at night here in Los Angeles. But I was shocked. I think that's a very long time.
A loyal person. And especially for him to not just be like, hey, you know, it's time for you to move on from me and go start living your life because it's not looking good. That's what I would have expected him to do.
Well,
and who knows, maybe he tried to get rid of her and
he
she
always
just
knew he was innocent. And so he was like, hopefully one of these appeals will, you know, go through and my luck will change and then we can be together.
Yeah.
Here's my question. You know, he was in jail for a long time. They haven't had a grown-up relationship.
Yep.
They got engaged very young, high school sweethearts. I feel bad, but my first thought when he was proven innocent was, I don't think that relationship's gonna last.
Because I was like shedding a tear. I was like, they could be together.
I was like, you're already in the courthouse. Just go down the hallway and get married.
No,
I was like, that'd be a perfect ending.
I was just thinking, realistically, they don't know each other very well. They've never lived with each other. They don't get to touch each other.
But it's kind of like, gosh, this is going to sound horrible, but it's kind of like if you're with someone through like a traumatic experience, like a parent passing or them fighting like a disease. You don't want that person to feel obligated to stay with you because of that.
Yeah.
You know,
but
so
that happens a lot.
It happens a lot. But I mean, hopefully through this experience, it did help them grow closer because she seems like, you know, she's familiar. You know, he walks in and it's like, hey, baby, like she's used to seeing him.
I think they saw each other quite a bit.
Hopefully their relationship, like also.
I would hope that they stayed together because otherwise it's just a sad story. It's like she fought for him for 10 years just to break up with him. But, you know, thinking real world life. but so she's the one who's really been pushing his innocence. And she doesn't have any basis to go off of other than the fact that he said he didn't do it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We really don't have anything to go off of here at all. At the get-go.
At the get-go.
At the get-go.
Except they asked, like, who could it possibly be? And then the fiance was like, well, Kim was dating some guy, Lyle Gomez, and she broke up with him a week prior to her being murdered. So it just was a little suspicious. So that's how we got his name.
And he was known for being a little aggressive, like he was on the football team, a little bit violent. But she wrote about him in her diary. Okay, so Alexis and Castle go there to talk to Lyle, and I did not like how Alexis was like, I'm not asking for your permission.
I didn't like that either.
I was just like, oh, you're doing it again, Alexis. You're doing it again.
Doing that thing that you do that's annoying.
I can't believe Castle let her go in there by herself.
That was such a dangerous situation.
That was really dangerous because at this point, you know, even if he's not the murderer, he's clearly kind of a drinker and has some issues. So
don't go into a stranger's house.
Yeah, what happened to not going into strangers' houses? Well, you know, stand outside and talk to him.
I know. There's a lovely porch. I'm sure there's some chairs.
I know. Never go in. Come on, Alexis. First rule. But we find out prior to going to Lyle's house, though, we find out that there's one thing that may have hinted to Lyle being there, which was the door had been wiped down, which he ran out the front door, not the back door, and there was no oil on it. And also there was amino nitrate traces that Lainey helped them get.
Oh, Lainey.
But which can be found in fertilizer.
And Lyle worked at a garden store.
Right. So that's why we think finally, because Castle was like, I still don't believe it. Now we finally think that maybe Lyle did it.
Right.
And so that's why we're there. And Alexis she's like, I'm a teenage girl. He'll talk to me. It's like, first off, that makes him sound like a pervert, and you don't know him yet.
I'll remind him of
Again, don't go in the house, but never mind.
But did you guys think it was him? Because I never really did.
I thought that would be too easy. I thought that he really loved her and that he was very damaged from what happened, and I didn't think
And
it was
even
him.
before they talked to him, I think it was weird that no one ever talked to the ex-boyfriend, just in general. But it just seemed too easy for it to have been the ex-boyfriend sitting right there in front of their noses.
Exactly. I also wonder things like the fact that there were bike tracks.
Right.
Why was that never looked into further? Why were so many things looked over?
Overlooked.
I understand when you have somebody in custody, but the defense should have been doing their job.
Like, you still have to ask the questions.
Yeah,
But it sounds like it was a small town because, that officer says, this murder really wrecked this town.
Right.
So it feels like it was such a small town that, he was the problem kid who didn't have his life
And
on the
maybe
right
they
track.
just wanted
so it was
to-
just easier to, not ask questions and just go with the basic. Like, this is who. I mean, they were staying in a crappy motel for crying out loud.
Right.
They
So
wanted-
it's like a small town where clearly there's not a lot of, interest or
Exactly. They wanted
city.
to button up the case quickly so like the town could recover and just went
And the
with this
cops
guy.
just aren't going to be as on it as the NYPD is.
Right.
And I also don't like, though, we met Officer Lane when we were in the coffee shop. Or I couldn't tell if it was a bar or a coffee shop, but I think it was a coffee shop.
I hope it was coffee shop.
I don't know. But when they were breaking down the fact that, the door was open, what temperature it was, all of those things. But we were going through that, and he kind of comes up to them and is like, I know what you're doing. Can't you leave this alone?
Right.
I initially thought, you are being very aggressive.
Yeah.
Very aggressive for a cop who thinks this is a button-up case.
Yeah.
If you believe so strongly that he is guilty, they're of no concern to you.
Exactly.
Right. I pointed that out as well.
You
I was
did.
like, this police officer.
It kind of made me think maybe there was a cover-up going on
Yes.
with
Yeah,
the police
that was
station.
my-
That was where my mind went when he said that. I was like, okay, clearly the small town, like,
Something's going
cops
on.
are covering something up here,
Right.
and that's what's going on.
And Alexis says this has been going on since they started working this case, which is sad because you would think
Right.
if there's any inkling that this person might be, innocent, then you should see that. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, not
Exactly.
guilty because the media says he's guilty.
Yeah.
And facts kind of seem to say he was guilty as well. But so we talked to Lyle, and he's genuinely sad and upset, but he says the other boys were coming to her house, and that night she asked to be picked up from a party at this big farmhouse.
Yes.
And he picked her up and brought her home. It's Jasper Grove is where the party was. Apparently there was a lot of parties there, but she didn't let him come inside. She said she had to make some decisions. So that's kind of leading to, like, what was she doing? Who were these boys?
Right.
So they go to the mom, who was so... I know your daughter was killed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be insensitive because obviously this was 10 plus years ago. So I feel like not that the pain is gone or the anger is gone, but maybe she's willing to look at it a little more rationally and weigh the facts of it.
I think she's just so angry still, and she doesn't want to bring it up anymore. And these people keep coming around asking these questions. She just is done with it. But Alexis asks a great question. We find out that Kim was a tutor, and she asked, what subject did she tutor? Chemistry, which plays a huge part in the second episode, in the second half of the episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we find out that there was chemistry books at the scene of the murder.
They were cooking meth.
And then they were cooking
At the
meth at the
farmhouse.
farmhouse. Because Ryan and Esposito help out with this. So they find out about the farmhouse. It was foreclosed on. And then it was sold to another family, but they all got sick because of the chemicals from the meth, which is horrifying. And so they were most likely cooking meth at that house, and that's where the amino nitrate probably came from.
Right.
So now we think, oh, it's like these kids are cooking meth. They killed her because she knew about the
She
meth.
found out, she saw something, and those might be the big decisions she had to make. Like, should I turn these kids in?
Right.
Should I not turn these kids in? So it's like, who were these kids that were there cooking meth? Somehow they're involved.
And I love how Castle and Alexis are going back and forth, and they're like, it was meth. It was the chemistry. And he's like, I usually do this with Beckett. And she's like, gross.
Ew.
Yeah, that was kind of...
I was kind of like, ugh.
That's weird.
But it is interesting to see them working together and their
was fun.
dynamic. But so that leads to more about this meth and who she was tutoring. So we found out there was one book, or two books,
Two
but
books.
one was hers, one was not hers. We found out at the school.
One was Frank's brother,
John Henson.
Henson.
And at that point, I screamed because
You were
I
like,
thought I was right. And then I looked at my watch and was like, oh, there's still 20 more minutes. They're going to
Some
find a way to
curveball.
twist this away.
Exactly.
Twist this away again.
Yeah. So we're led to believe maybe John did this. So John, when they talk to him, he gets very defensive because he was in Manhattan and Beckett talked to him and he was like, I'm done talking to you. I'm out of here, blah, 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 blah. I didn't peg him for a mean-spirited killer, like even when he was talking, but it definitely seemed like there's more to the story.
Exactly. I kind of I jumped on board with your prediction there, and I was just like, it has to be the brother. It's totally the brother.
Well, because he wasn't home when the alarm went off.
Yes.
You know, he lied about certain facts. And so we come to the conclusion that John did it. But when Alexis and Castle confront Frank about it, he knew the whole time.
So actually, the night of the murder, when Frank walks in, he sees his brother over Kim's body and tells him to get out of there, go home, clean up. And when he's there, he doesn't get out in time, so Frank is blamed. So this whole time, he knew that his brother...
But if you listen to what Frank said at the very beginning when he first met with Alexis and Castle, he said, I don't need you to find the person who actually murdered her. I need you to prove I'm innocent.
I didn't.
So as soon as he said that and then they're sitting there, I was like, oh my God, he knew the whole time he's protecting his brother.
Which is sweet, but at the same time, he let Maggie fight for this case. Over and over. And she looks devastated, but at the same time, he still did want to be proven innocent.
Yeah.
But where do you get off thinking you can be innocent if they don't have any evidence pointing to someone else?
Right. Yeah. Well, he felt guilty because prior to the murder, I don't know how far back, so he was in a car accident with his brother. Frank walked away. His brother John had a lot of injuries, a lot of brain injury, and he blamed himself for John, I keep getting the brothers confused, like anger issues,
drug
use, some memory lapse. So he always blamed himself for kind of John killing Kim.
I know, but the thing is, it's like, yeah, you may have sparked something, but you didn't kill her.
Exactly.
You don't deserve to die.
Should have asked his brother like right away. I know he was under arrest, so he can't just phone his brother. But maybe the first time he came in, maybe his brother would have remembered something sooner on. Like, hey, do you remember what happened? Like, did you do this? Or
he says his brother. It became very clear to him after the first few visits that his brother didn't remember anything.
He didn't remember
and
anything.
He said, when he would get high or whatever on drugs, he would have blackouts for
exactly.
So if anything happened, he didn't even know. So maybe Frank was just felt better accepting the fact that John didn't know he killed this girl.
Right, and he didn't want his brother to be in jail and executed. So he, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. He didn't know what to do.
But so we come down to looking at the facts. We think it's over. And Frank says, stop looking. I just need to help Maggie come to terms with the fact that I'm going to die. But obviously Alexis and Castle don't do that. They look up the time of the 911 call, which was at 8:04. But there's this solar system clock thing.
The binary clock? What is this thing?
Never heard of this before.
Alexis is like, what is that? He's like, it's a clock. Tells you what time it is.
You align the planets in some quadrants, and that tells you what time it is. And apparently it was 7:32 when it broke.
So apparently we're assuming it happened in the fight when she's being murdered.
Yes.
So she was dead for a half hour before the scream. So we're thinking, so Castle says the scream wasn't Kim, it was John. And that's why the 911 call happened there. So he didn't kill her. So now it's like, okay. So
the brothers are innocent.
Both the brothers are innocent.
The brothers are innocent. I love when they do this in Castle, though. They get you just as far as knowing they're innocent before you find out they don't show you the steps to find out who the murderer is until they have the murderer.
And they're just like,
I was glad. I was kind of like, I wasn't happy that he was a murderer, but that officer, he came off so defensive and so rude and so aggressive.
I knew it. I kind of knew it.
I was very happy, but I thought that his dad. I was still on the whole cover-up thing when Castle first started saying it. I thought they were going to go with, and you did this and you pinned it on him to protect your son. But then you kind of saw his dad's face, growing more and more shocked and horrified. And I was like, oh, he didn't know.
And here's the thing. He probably investigated that case. And what it comes down to is he was being tutored by Kimberly. The dad was, paying the checks. That's how we found out the name.
Right.
The dad owned the house that was foreclosed on. I don't know
where the meth was being cooked.
We didn't look into that sooner.
Yeah.
And so apparently we're assuming those were his bike tracks, and DNA places him at the scene. And so it was pretty easy once you got all the information and somebody actually took the time to process the DNA and the facts.
Yeah.
But also, Castle's in the hotel room, reviewing the footage. And
the dolphin.
The dolphin. So there was a charm bracelet that broke, but it broke after she died. But when the crime scene people move her body, there's a charm underneath, and it's a dolphin charm. And they're like, well, it wasn't her charm. So whoever it belonged to is the murderer. And we find out that he was a swimmer and he had a dolphin charm.
I still feel like that guy should not have been wearing that dolphin charm.
I know. We said it was a girl.
Yeah. I thought it was a girl too.
I go, fiance. I was like, I was right all along.
If it was coming from a bracelet, yeah. But then I remembered it's 1998.
That's true.
Those
Think
necklaces in 1998 for guys, it was okay to wear.
And
I don't know why,
It's
but
not
it was
okay now.
It's not okay now.
It's not okay.
Nobody should be wearing them now. But I remember, like, they all had those, like, weird, like, mood ring-esque
Yes.
look to them.
Yes.
Yeah, I instantly was like, oh, a girl killed her.
That's why I was like, it's a girl. The
Wow.
fiance, I was right.
But I'm glad it wasn't the fiance, and I like how they kind of just shocked him there. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, they didn't have any police backup because they were coming after the police.
Yeah.
So did the dad have to arrest his son, like, right there on the spot?
Probably.
All we know is that the brothers are free.
Yes.
Yes.
All the evidence worked out, and the brothers are innocent.
And the part where I cried was when the judge said, I know you've had a lot of
Oh,
people
I know.
looking down, a lot of judges looking down on you over the years. I'm going to step down and hand you, like, your paperwork. And I was like, oh.
she shook his hand and, like, oh.
Because
so
when somebody is kind of done wrong by the justice system, it looks really bad.
Yeah.
And think about this guy. He lost 10 plus years of his life sitting in jail.
Sitting
Right.
in jail, having people judge him, having his whole life turned upside down, you know, just
Poor guy.
mentally, like, what you have to go through to know that you're going to be dead in 3 days. Like, this guy has been through the ringer.
I feel so bad, but I'm glad. And even how Alexis said, I just needed to see this. I don't need to celebrate
I
with
know,
them, which
sweet.
I liked because it shows, in one sense, she's apparently mature. So I liked that because I felt like sometimes she's very immature. But I've never had a problem with Alexis until this season. Like, I don't know.
agree with you. I don't know what it is about her.
I don't know what it is this season, but I feel like sometimes they just don't know what to do with her.
So they give her, like,
they give her these random things to come out and do and make a big
like the
fuss
stuff in
about.
Paris
but then
was
they
weird.
they don't really give her enough to make it actually worth it.
Right.
You
Like,
know?
I would rather her just go back to college and I wouldn't have to hear from her whining anymore.
Yeah.
Because
I
this
mean,
was the first episode in a while, like, we actually get a lot of Alexis time.
But
It's
that's
usually
the
like
thing.
the B, C, D story is Alexis, so it's like 1, 2 scenes
When it
tops.
is the CD story, I'm like, oh, I wish there was more Alexis in this episode. But then when it is, I'm like, I don't know about that.
I think she's smart. I think she's a strong, opinionated woman.
Yeah.
I think that's great, and I think Castle raised her to be like that. But at the same time, there's a level of respect everybody kind of deserves, and I just feel like the last 2 episodes she hasn't been giving that.
Yeah.
But I think this is us stepping into her
new
understanding.
trying to find herself. She's in college. She's, her dad's always treated her like an adult. So now
Right.
she kind of, that's the way that their relationship is. So she doesn't talk to her dad like a normal college or
Right. Yeah.
teenager would because she never has had to before.
Right.
And now that things are changing and, her dad's getting remarried and all this stuff, like she has a lot of emotions going on and she's in this relationship with a very free-spirited guy who is not, amongst Manhattan's elite,
No
the Upper
pie
East
in this
Side or anything.
episode.
No Pie, no Martha, but
Yeah.
they didn't fit, I don't think. I think this storyline deserved the whole episode,
Yeah.
and I liked that. I don't love when there's like a really good murder to solve and there's too much fluff.
Just go back to the mystery.
So I'm glad that we got that solved. I like how Alexis said she had to say thank you to Beckett.
Yes.
And I think
like
you
it.
guys are right. That's the entrance or the first step in them kind of developing a bond in a relationship.
That's the first step, and it's just going to build from there, I think, throughout
Yeah.
the season to ultimately the wedding.
The wedding. That can't even go off without a hitch. That's just not possible
Can
in
we go
Castle
back
World.
to one of the first lines was like, "Can we get married in space?"
I know.
I'm like, that's pretty appropriate, but please don't.
Yeah, she's like, I've been dreaming my whole life about getting married in space with fuel tanks and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Not gonna happen.
Doesn't
Not
sound fun. But, and I don't think we're going to be in space anytime soon having weddings. But that's Castle.
Yeah.
It's Castle. It just still blows my mind that they're like together without
I
any
know.
true hiccups. We've never had this.
I feel like there might be a hiccup before the wedding.
There has to
There's
be.
going to be something that happens.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be like relationship ending.
Oh, no,
right? Yeah,
absolutely not.
Just like a bump in the road.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
It's not going to be smooth sailing from here.
It couldn't be.
No.
It couldn't be. But while we're talking about that was basically the end of the episode. Why don't we get into some predictions, what you guys are thinking?
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Do you have any?
Hiccup in the road. Beckett's pregnant.
Ooh, I would like that.
Oh my
Before the
God, that
wedding.
would be amazing.
Find out before the wedding that she's pregnant, and then she's scared to tell Castle. And then, but he's like going to be excited about it. So then she tries to keep it a secret, and it's just going to be this whole thing. That's the hiccup in the road.
Oh,
She's
I bet
gonna be
like
pregnant.
Martha will know or something,
Yeah.
but no one else.
How's Alexis going to react to this?
Exactly.
Oh, she won't be the only
The
child.
only child. That's going to be a little tough.
I don't know. That's interesting. What about you? Do you have any?
I don't know what my predictions will be. I really want. Oh, Ryan's expecting a baby too.
That's what I was just thinking.
So that will fit in that way. They could have a little bond sesh over that. Other than that, I just want to see more Beckett and Alexis bonding.
Okay.
That's what I want.
I would like to see more of that as well. I like your theory about the pregnancy. To be honest, I don't think it's happening. But I'm excited. I feel like coming into the holidays, things get a little crazy, and we're probably going to, have a cliffhanger going into the hiatus. Before that, though, I think we're going to get a storyline for Ryan and a storyline for Esposito. We always seem to get their special episodes. Yeah. I think the baby's coming. And then maybe I talked to John Huertas on the red carpet, and he hinted at a Lainey thing. So maybe people have been waiting for that to happen again.
I love them.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get
They're
that.
so cute.
What happened?
Well, they broke up, remember? And then last Valentine's Day, it seemed like something might happen, and it never did.
I loved them together.
Because I feel like we don't have the sexual tension and back and forth
Beckett
we
and
used to
Castle.
have.
Yeah.
We need that, even if it is just in a minor side story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
would
agree.
like that. So I'm hoping that's what happens. We won't know until we watch the episodes like the rest of you. But make sure you guys check out our after shows on iTunes. You can rate, comment, tell a friend about us. Definitely leave comments. We appreciate them greatly. It helps us. Castle has a lot of details, so you guys help out. But also keep the conversation going with us. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Paige Sullivan.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Tiona-Hudson.
And you can find me on Twitter at Kate Aquillano.
So make sure you guys keep the conversation going all week, and we will see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.